All right, happy Monday, everybody. June 17th, 2024. You are here for 5 secrets to writing a resume that gets you hired. My name is Albert of Albert's List. I am here to be your host today. And with us is Gretchen Hellman, a master career coach and strategist located in the San Francisco Bay Area. All of you here are here today probably because you realize that your resume is the most important first impression that you can make in a job search. And in today's increasingly competitive market, that first impression needs to be as good as possible. Gretchen's a career coach, and so she's helped a lot of people make really great first impressions in this job search and in many job searches past. And today she's here to share 5 secrets to writing a resume that gets you hired. If you have any questions, we'll be answering those in the webinar chat. This is also being recorded, so you will be able to catch a recording of this later. And we will be also telling you more about our 3-day resume workshop starting next week. Gretchen, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Albert. It's great to be back with you today. And hi, everybody. If you also want to put in the chat what your professions are and your industries, that would also help give me a little bit of context so I can make sure I'm making this content more specific. So my name is Gretchen Hellman. I am a master career coach and strategist. Just a little bit about me. I have an engineering background. I actually have an electrical engineering degree from Santa Clara University, and I had a 20-year career in product marketing and product management in tech. So I worked at the individual contributor level all the way on up to senior vice president. So I've not only learned how to write really good resumes, but I also used to review a lot of resumes. I used to hire recruiters, and I used to be in the board meeting when we were trying to figure out all that stuff. So I have a really good insider's view into resumes, recruiting, human resources, as well as executive management. And so I combine that engineering knowledge with my strategic go-to-market experience. I was really well known for being able to help establish leadership positions in the market. And when it comes to us approaching the job market, all those same secrets still apply. And so I combined that with the best in life and leadership coaching so we can actually approach the job market as our confident, best day at work selves. So with that, all right, awesome. I'm seeing designers, project managers, perfect. So just for the designer people in here, a lot of my resume examples are not going to be focused on design resumes, but I'll make sure I talk to design resumes a little bit because they're all a little bit different. So just so you understand who I work with, I have been doing this for 10 years. I have worked with over 1,000 clients in virtually every industry. I've worked with CIA agents and pastors and deputy directors of unemployment divisions in U.S. state government. I have worked with senior vice presidents, new college graduates, high school students, all over the place. And so here are just a few examples of some of the companies that my clients work at and have gotten jobs at. So there are 3 key questions I help my clients answer. The first is, what do I want next? The second is, how do I get what I want? And the third is, how do I make the most of what I have? And today we're going to focus on how do I get what I want, which is where the resume fits in. With my resume work, you can look up my Yelp and Google reviews. I have a reputation for writing transformative resumes to be able to address every type of problem, including big gaps, spotty job histories, career transition, wanting to move up, having weird job titles that don't make any sense, doing even smaller things like small industry shifts, or there are all kinds of things that come up with resumes, and we'll talk about a lot of that. Okay, awesome. So, all right, we got some software engineers. So we got some product managers. Awesome. So, and just to note, I'll talk about this at the very end, but we've got 3 lunch times. So starting next week, 3 90-minute sessions to really help you get to a more powerful resume, not just get you to a more powerful resume, but also to give you the secrets to how to write a powerful resume and work directly with me and in a team to really be able to integrate that into your career for the rest of your life. So I see, yeah, older workers, that came up last week when we were doing this. So I'll definitely talk about that. The good news is that it's not as scary. Like there's this new HuffPo article that's floating around that says it's impossible. It's really not. It really kind of there are a lot of factors. We'll talk about that when we talk about how to frame our experience. But please, if you've got the time and the interest, come to my workshop. And I'm excited to work directly with you all. We'll have some pre-work, we'll have some exercises, and we'll really start crafting those stories. So moving on to resumes. So before we get to the secrets, first, whenever I work with anybody new, I like to share my 4-point litmus test for anything that goes on a resume. And it's really important because one of the reasons that I've integrated life and leadership coaching into my practice so much, most of us will experience this phenomenon that when it comes time to help our friends with their careers and their resumes, it's super easy. But when it comes time for us to help ourselves and write our own resumes, like the world closes in, gets kind of black and white, our brains don't work the same way. And the reason why is we actually have a stress reaction when we think about our career. And neuroscience tells us that means the primal brain gets engaged, shuts off access to our creative thinking center. And so these 4 points will help you really evaluate how you're crafting the story on your resume, as well as anything you put on your resume to make sure that it's okay. So it must be honest. So it has to be honest, anything you put down there, because we don't want to get our energy all off and we want to, approach the job market honestly, of course. But it also has to be well positioned. And so, like, I can make a number of honest statements, but they can have different variations of well positioning, right? So, if people say, "Hey, Gretchen, how did you become a career coach?" I could say, "Wow, I really started to not like my career very much and I needed a change." That's honest, but it's not well positioned. If we try it a different way, "Hey, Gretchen, how did you become a career coach?" I could also say, "You know what? I really loved marketing, but the subject matter I was dealing with wasn't my favorite. And I really realized that what I really love doing is taking those elements and helping job seekers approach the job market with power and confidence and make big moves." That's honest too, but it's honest and well positioned. It also has to be relevant, right? So, and what I mean by relevant, so honest and not relevant is, "Hey, Gretchen, tell me about who you are professionally." And if I say, "Hey, I am a career coach and a cybersecurity expert," right? So the cybersecurity expert for many of you is not relevant unless you happen to be in cybersecurity. It's true, I am, but not relevant. So we leave that off. That's a really important thing. Whenever I see resumes that aren't working, they've got a lot of not relevant stuff on there for the jobs that they're applying for. And if you've got not relevant stuff on there, it's going to confuse the job market about who you are and what you do. Make sure that the stuff on there is relevant to the jobs you're applying for. And the fourth point of the litmus test is you have to feel good representing it. So I have like certain rules whenever I write like I do a private client resume, and that's we don't put anything that you don't like doing on your resume, because why would you want to be chosen for that? Let's put the things you like doing on your resume. So that's my 4-point litmus test. We're going to be covering that more in the workshop. Also, some core principles before we start. The resume is the thing that people ruminate most over in their job search. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it working? Is it not? Here's some things to really remember. A resume is never perfect and it's never done. It's a living, breathing document. So if you make some improvements to your resume, if it's better than it was yesterday, it's better to use today than it was yesterday. So don't wait until that document is perfect, because it never will be. It also is a living, breathing document, and that means that the world is your shopping cart for skills. So if you wish you could put something on your resume, go take a course, go do something. And once you've done that, you'll be able to put that skill on your resume. Really good example was I was working with a new college graduate who graduated with business analytics, and they really wanted to be a data scientist, but they didn't have SQL and some of the other stuff that was in there. We really looked at that job market, and she took a 6-hour SQL class. It wasn't an extensive SQL class, but it was 6 hours. She was able to get an interview, answer the SQL group by question correctly while she was honest about how much she knew it. And she's a data scientist, and she has been for 6 years. So like, it's just these little steps that can get us moving in the right direction. Don't wait until it's perfect, and don't try to make it perfect, because you will be in analysis paralysis. So, okay, the second one is your resume is not you. Um, if your resume is not getting you an interview, it doesn't mean that you were rejected. Your resume is a collection of words on a document. So, and the third point, the third core principle is measure it by ratios, not individual data points. So the average apply online to interview ratio is 1 in 20. Now, there are a lot of variations based on where the job market is at, who we are in the job market, as well as our profession. So if I'm applying online and I'm in film and television, it's going to be like it's going to be almost nothing, like a bunch of applies to almost no interviews, because the tribal law in that job market segment is networking. Everybody wants to be introduced in, because that's part of what they value. If I'm a software developer, however, like with Google on my resume, I'm going to have very different types of ratios. So measure it by ratios, not individual data points. And we'll talk about how to do batch tests so you can feel confident and take action, but also make sure that you're not one of those people that has applied to 1,000 jobs for 8 months and isn't getting any interviews. We want to get that interview generation engine going. Okay. And then the very last thing is your resume is a tool in an overall process. Your resume is not your job search. And so we'll talk through how to identify if you're not getting interviews. I've got a slide at the end, how to identify which pieces of this puzzle you might want to do some different things with to start getting it to move. Your resume, your target, your outreach strategy. Those are the three main components that come together to get you interviews. So like earlier, I saw somebody and they said, hey, how do I get a product management interview? And I said, well, that really depends. And the reason why it depends is if you already have product management experience, it's very different trying to get a product management interview than if you don't have any experience. So if you do have experience and it's a tight job market like this, you're gonna stand the best chance in directly in your industry where you have domain knowledge. The more pieces of the mind map you can fill in, the greater your chances of interview. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we can't change our careers. If we really want to move into a product management position and we haven't been there, even though there's a lot of competition for those spots, we want to continually move towards getting more product experience and product knowledge, meaning talk to product managers, do some do some work for startups, try to advise wherever you can, put that stuff on your resume. At the same time, what you want to do is, if you can't immediately get an interview, get a job that is very close to product, where you're going to be talking to the product managers. And then you will be moving towards it. So that's just one example of, and that applies to almost anything. Like, try to get the interview. If you can't get the interview directly, like through apply online, talk to a lot of people, ask them for advice, ask them for where you might look. If you can't get the interviews that way, continually upskill, and then get a job really close to that thing. Also, look on LinkedIn. Everybody's career path is on LinkedIn. If you look up I'm just using product manager as an example. Let me change it. Let's just say I really, really, really want to be an HR business partner. Okay. That's really what I want to do, but I'm not sure how to do it. I'm a new college graduate. I'm like, oh, what do I do? Look up HR business partners on LinkedIn, 10 of them at companies that you like, and take a look at their whole job search history. What you'll find is there are many threads going into HR business partner. One, HR coordinator. Two, recruiting coordinator. Three, kind of HR admin type stuff. And then there's some other ways in as well, like project management and stuff like that. Anything close to people, but you'll be able to see the threads. All right. So with that, are you guys ready for the secrets? Who's ready for the secrets? Let me see you. Are you guys engaged out there? Okay. Oh, we've got a bunch of, oh, is there a question panel that I'm ignoring? Let me just see. Let me view the question panel. Okay. So I see a bunch of people. Oh, can you guys type, if you guys have a question, can you, okay, I see Claire's ready for secrets, James is, Elise is, awesome. And if you guys actually have a question, put it into the webinar chat, okay? That would be really, really great. So Priya is, Holly, Adrian, perfect. Let's get to the secrets. So I have been studying resumes like my engineering go-to-market self, like only like my engineering go-to-market self can. And so I'm going to start sharing the secrets that I've discovered for resumes that aren't in any book you're going to read. And they really are powerful. The first secret, know the game you are playing. So we are playing the get interviews and get hired game. The most important thing is to understand how the hiring organizations are approaching this. So the hiring organizations are looking at a lot of different pieces at the end of the day. The good news is that most candidates are not being accepted or rejected. Instead, we're trying to find best fit. Like, for example, like I can remember quite a few times when I would not give my favorite client, my favorite candidate the job. In fact, a few product management positions I was hiring for. And the reason why was there were just some bench strength needs at play where I needed to hire somebody else. Or there were some certain personalities on the executive staff. I couldn't hire my favorite. I had to hire somebody that could like get along with the CTO. And the CTO was really hard to get along with. So things like that. So as your resume is being evaluated by recruiters and hiring managers, they're looking at your experience, your individual traits, and your skills, and they're comparing them against the role, the team, and the company. It's a lot more like online dating without flirting than it is having your worth evaluated. Your worth is not on the line here at all. And the first question that the hiring organizations are asking is, can you do this job? Like from what they can see, from what you've done, can you do this job? And so as you're evaluating your resume, it's really important for your resume content to be reflective of the jobs you are applying for. If it's not reflective of the jobs in language, success criteria, skill set, people are going to be confused by it. So, because they're not really looking very closely, and we'll get to that secret. Then the second is, can you ramp up quickly? That's where our skills and knowledge area come into play. So for example, if I have Salesforce inside and you have Salesforce on your resume and I'm hiring for sales ops position, I'm going to be like, great. If you have Zoho, let's say, and I have Salesforce, I'm going to be a little bit more concerned about if you can ramp up quickly. Oh yeah, and Albert's saying I've met people who want to be marketing managers, but their resume reads like someone in operations. Exactly. Operations is all about process, right? It's all about process improvement and getting things done and making things work. Marketing is all about messaging, positioning, go-to-market strategies, go-to-market partnerships with sales. It's all about growth. The language is really, really different. And but the bottom line with this slide is be reflective of the jobs you are applying for. And we'll talk about how to do that. So, okay. So secret two, we want to understand the resume's use. So everybody worries, I've seen this time and time again. And like I said, I've worked with over 1,000 people on their careers, and that's a lot of people. And so I've really been able to see some trend lines. So people will come to me and they'll say, is my resume good or bad? I don't know. And I'm like, well, what are you applying for? I can't tell unless I can see like what you're going after, first of all. And then the second, there's way more concern about format than content and storytelling. I'm going to tell you how 99.9% of people read resumes. Okay. And I've taken vice presidents of talent acquisition through this, senior vice presidents of Fortune 500 companies. I've taken all kinds of hiring managers. I've taken Albert through this too, and he agrees with this as well. So here's how 99.9% of people read resumes. If I'm a hiring manager or a recruiter, my emotional state is I'm usually hopeful, worried, and in a hurry. I'm hopeful I'm going to find the perfect candidate that just snaps in because hiring is painful. I just want to get through it. I'm worried I'm going to spend a bunch of time talking to candidates that aren't a good fit. And I'm in a hurry because if I'm a recruiter, I've got more recs to fill. If I'm a hiring manager, I've got meetings to go to. And so I'm going to take 7 seconds when a resume gets to me. I'm going to upload the idea of the job posting. That's that slide we saw before, the roles, the team, etc. And I'm going to give it a 7-second scan. I'm going to scan the top, and then I'm going to go directly to the first job title and the first company. I'm going to see if I understand what that means. So like, for example, if I see Google and software engineer, I'm going to understand a lot about who they are. If I see engineer without saying software or hardware or whatever, and some company, an ABC company I've never heard of, I'm going to be a little bit more confused. Then I'm going to go down in a line, down the job titles and the companies. I call this the resume tree or the resume foundation. I'm going to go through the dates next, thinking about how long do they stay, how long do they leave, etc. I'm going to scan the rest. If it's a hard skills related job, I'm going to be looking for hard skills. If it's a soft skills, or if it's a strategic job, I'm going to be looking for scope, impact, etc. And then after 7 seconds, I've decided who somebody is. So with that, usually when I share this with people, they're like, oh, well, how can I stand out? Well, now we know how they're getting the story. We can absolutely know how to stand out. This knowledge is really, really powerful. So um, I don't know how I got these emojis up. Okay. Any questions so far? Do we have any questions from everybody? I know I'm throwing a lot of resume science at you. I see a couple of hands raised, but what I'd really love is if you guys could type your questions into the question box. Any questions? Any discoveries so far? Okay, is there anything against putting, okay, great, there they go. Is there anything against putting experience out of order? It might confuse some people. So, there are a lot of people who say, oh, you should do a functional resume. If it hurts my scan, like if I can't get that story really quickly, it's going to kind of jar my brain a little bit. That's why, there are all those fancy like Canva resumes with all those charts and stuff like that. Not for graphic designers, it's a little bit different. Graphic designers want to have more of a designed resume. Their portfolio is going to be the big thing that tells people what they've done. But for things aside from design or copywriting, it's really important to have an easily eye scannable resume, not ATS. Okay. So can you add competencies? So if I want to see things in order, sometimes we might want to put things out of order, or there are a couple tricks, and I'll go through some tricks that I have to kind of tell the most honest, well-positioned, relevant, makes you feel good story with those titles and dates. Yes, you can add competencies before experience. We'll talk about how to know how to balance that. I've got some content on that. Um, so how to customize resume with that arduous rejigger of all history each and every time. So Pamela, I get that question a lot, and it all has to go do with how we are, like what target we are picking. If we're going across a bunch of different job types, like I talk to people and they're like, well, I'm going across uh, and going across program management and development and, operation, like just general operations. Well, that's a lot of different stuff and in multiple different industries that you're going to find yourself just shape shifting all the time. And that's going to be really painful. However, usually like that shape shifting comes from a fear. So that's when that comes to the mindset stuff. So I have a fear that I'm going to do, if I limit what I'm looking for, I'm going to not have enough to look for. And then I'm going to end up with no job at the end of the day. But usually when I work with clients like that, instead of being a bunch of different professions and industries all at once, we pick one target at a time and we use agile methodology. So that's basically chopping up a big long project into small sprints. And we do a run at that one, and then we can really embrace and improve our resume, and we're not shape shifting all the time. Now, I will say sometimes I work with people in certain industries where that's just not possible. Like, for example, I've been working with a snow leopard conservationist that specializes in human factors. Like that, there aren't a lot of people like that out there. And so like, we can't like just go do a run at it. Instead, then we want to do an industry play and start with like all the snow leopard conservationists and then move out to other conservation groups and other animals and see who might need who might need human factors support. Um, does what does a resume summary, if provided, needed to check off to the reader? I'm not sure what you mean by a resume summary. I don't know what that means. But no matter what, your resume has to say, I can do this job, I can ramp up quickly and build trust that you can do it really well. And I'll talk about how to build trust that you do it really, really well. Oh, gaps. Yes. So there are gaps. So we'll talk about, I'll save gaps for another secret that I have. For career transition, I have educational experiences related to my new goals, but my last experience is very different. How do I list it? So, Claire, for career transition, this is where it's really important to take a look at the outreach strategy as well as the resume and the target all at once. So the first thing that you want to do is try to get the language of your most recent job to be as close to the language of your new chosen career. And usually we can translate these things. I do this all the time. I've translated cybersecurity into project management. I have translated fine dining captain of, I was working with a fine dining captain, and we translated his stuff into tech customer success. So each profession, each industry, and each level has their own jargon. And actually sometimes in regions, like it's kind of it's anthropology. So we all have developed all this professional jargon, and the reason why is to tell everybody what tribe we are in. And so if you're in the middle of career transition, you really want to start speaking the new language. And I'll just give you an example of that, you guys. Okay, so if people ask me, so we'll talk to the San Francisco Bay Area people. So if people said, hey, Gretchen, what did you do last weekend? And I say, I went to San Fran and I had a great time. What does that tell you about me? If I say I went to San Fran, let me see. Anybody got it in the chat? Yes, I'm not from there. I'm a tourist. I'm not from San Francisco. Exactly. Exactly. We're not from SF. Like some of us, and actually in different regions, some of us will call it the cities, some of us will call it SF, right? So Oakland, where I am, we can be the town. It's the city, right? There's a lot of passion about this. You can see all you folks from London and Toronto, et cetera. And so this is a really good example of how just nuance in language can tell people who I am and where I come from. And if you are doing an industry transition, a career transition, a level transition, you really want to make sure that you've got that language correct. So it's the city that I can see. All right, perfect. So let me see. Exactly. If you're someone from a certain generation, you might also call it the yay area too, right? Or downtown. Exactly. Perfect. So, yes, Frisco's pretty bad. SF for the city. Perfect. Okay, I'll get to more questions in a little bit, but like let's move on right now. So based on how people read resumes, okay, you want to define goals for the resume piece. That's step one. And so if you're seeking in a chosen job market segment, I really want you to think about what a hiring manager really cares about in your segment and write down three main ideas. So let's say let me just take a look at these. So for let me see. Okay. For a UX designer, what do you think the top three things people care about? Like, let's say I work at I work at Square and I'm looking for a UX designer for the Squarespace scheduling app, which I really want a better UX designer for because I use it and I don't like their UX. What are some top things that I might be looking for if I'm hiring for that position? UX designer, Squarespace scheduling app. What do you think? Anybody? So it may be someone with experience using, yeah, but yeah, somebody with customer experience. So somebody who has, yes, somebody, it's like somebody who's dealt with kind of non-technical users using products. Definitely, I'm going to be looking for that. Anybody that's worked with small to medium business, I'm going to be looking for that as well. And anybody who's dealt with any kind of time management, anything, I'll like that stuff a lot. But for a UX designer, I want to see a really, really, really good portfolio. Depending on what I'm looking for, whether it's just straight, if it's UX and UI, I'm going to be looking at those elements, or if it's more user research and more kind of wireframe development, I'm going to be looking for that stuff. What do you think is really important if I'm hiring a enterprise, an enterprise resource management software salesperson? If I'm a hiring manager, what do I want? What do you think? Three things. Enterprise software sales for my ERP company. Definitely want to see, like, if they've got ERP, I'm going to feel great, right? Even if they don't have ERP, I'm going to want to see that they've sold to at least to the kind of level of people that I'm looking for. Absolutely. Okay, you guys are missing, you guys are getting it, business development. What's the number one thing I want though? What's the number one thing I want from that sales rep? Yes, revenue. I want money. That's exactly what I want. Yeah, I don't care if they can tell stories, if they can bring me money, to be honest with you. Like, I really want money first and foremost. Storytelling ability is good, But if we look at what makes a salesperson successful, it's getting into new accounts, it's getting like meeting or exceeding quota, and it's doing it in a way that fits my business. And so for your profession, I want you guys to think through what are top three things you think hiring managers might want to see on your resume. And it's not about these soft things. It's about what a good job is in that segment. So, what do you think? Can we have some people list their professions and the top three things they think people want to see from them? So I'll do mine. I'm a career coach. People want to see that I help people get jobs. People want to see that I help people make more money, and people want to see that people are happy with those jobs. Okay, save money, make money, reduce costs. All right. Yeah. And so what's your profession, Simone? I'd love to see. Is that your, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And also for project manager. Okay. In fintech, perfect. And they probably would also want to see the ability to really work well with people, right? Because in project management land, like really like building good culture, all that stuff, I would want to see that for a project manager in fintech. So a little less, just a little softer than sales. Anybody else got their top three? All right. Well, I'll let you guys think through those. So, oh, we got some PM, develop and release products. Okay, develop and release products, understand users and market research, collaboration between teams. That is really important for PM. What is every chief product officer really hoping their PM brings them in addition to that stuff? Neville, what do you think? They want market leadership. They want money. So we're not, we want to figure out what we want to highlight in our resume, right? So we're not writing this is the problem. Everybody jumps to just writing the resume without even thinking about what they want to communicate in their resume. So, okay, cybersecurity, troubleshooting, networking, and scripting. Yeah, well, cybersecurity also, it depends on where you're at, but if you're like a cybersecurity analyst, the ability to triage, right, and handle tickets, the ability to identify threats, and then definitely like more scripting and stuff like that to be able to do some cybersecurity, some source stuff, cyber security orchestration, automation and response. There we go. I got sore. That brain cell's a little rusty. So, okay. So with that, so in your chosen job market, and this is why, like if you're playing across tons of different job types, you are going to feel like you're shape shifting all the time. And so for spear fishing, and what I mean by spear fishing, you're not approaching a segment of the job market, you're kind of shape shifting all the time. You're a project manager 1 minute, and then you're a program, like you're a product manager the next, and then your customer success the next. It's going to be hard because it is all really different language and it is different points to extract. If you must do it, I'm not going to stop you, but I will say it makes things difficult. All right. Oh, yeah, we've got an accountant, meet payroll dates, file taxes, prepare financial reports, and not make any errors, right? Kishnan, everybody wants to make sure you don't make any errors. So think about underneath kind of the general things, what a good job is. So, all right. So let's move on to secret number 3. So now that we know how people read resumes, we know that the title, the companies, and the dates are telling the biggest part of our story because they're the first place that the recruiters and hiring managers get our story from. Now, job titles and dates. We already had a question I saw about gaps. And so if your gap is like right now, right? So like, let's say your gap is right now and you're just doing a returnship coming back to work for whatever reason. Usually what I recommend people do if you have done nothing professionally during that gap term, to really just take some courses really, really quickly, some professional development courses, and then write down personal leave or whatever it is. You can say family leave and professional development. And then you start to list those skills that are related to the job market. The only reason that people are worried about gaps is they're worried that you don't know the latest technology or you haven't kept up with things. And so it's important, for us to be able to show that we've really kept up with things. If you are in a long gap and you do have any chance to do any kind of free consulting or anything like that, do it and put it on your resume. All we're doing is showing relevance. Now, when when it goes to gaps in the past, I really don't worry about them that much because you're showing relevance now. So if you have a 20-year gap, like that's a big decision whether you want to have those older dates. I know we have somebody who asked me, like, what about older candidates? And we'll talk about that at the very end because that's kind of a whole subject. But not a bad one, not as bad as you may think. I talk to a lot of older candidates, and usually I'm able to put them at ease. But if it's like 5 years ago, like don't worry about your gap. If you go and you interview somewhere, or if somebody doesn't want to interview you because you took a break 5 years ago, they are suspicious. They are not trusting. They are not somebody who you would want to work for in a little while. And I know it's hard when you don't have a job. And I know it's hard if I'm like, yeah, you don't want to work for them. You're like, Gretchen, I need a paycheck. But there are good people out on the job market. Let's focus on finding them rather than worrying about the 5% of people who won't interview anybody who's ever had a gap on their resume. Life happens, and we all want bosses that understand that life happens and it's not that big a deal. Oh, the other thing is also, if your gap is right now, put the fun things you did as well. If you did anything fun, people like talking about that, and that actually increases your interview potential. So, but going to titles, company, and dates, I'll tell you, here's some other common challenges that I've seen with titles and dates. So if we have meaningful titles and confusing companies, we want to make the title bigger, and this is why format is so subjective about the story we're trying to tell. It's not about which color blue or if we've got a pretty bar on the side or not. It's really focus on the story you want to tell before you worry about how to format your resume. You'll be so much happier. So we want to make that title really big, and then we put the company underneath because the I will go automatically to the title, and give it a description in the language of your chosen target. So, and I've got a little example of, I found somebody on LinkedIn and changed their titles around a little bit. The second is I've got a meaningful company, but I've got a confusing job title. So with that, you want to highlight the company, and I want to encourage people to think about a descriptive job title. Like, here's an example. Sometimes we want to be honest, but we also want to be well positioned. Sometimes we'll get a job title that lies. So I want you guys who are in tech, if you saw that somebody was a software engineering manager, so they're a software engineering manager, how many people do you think would be reporting to that person if you saw somebody who was a software engineering manager in tech? What do you guys think? Okay, so Cynthia says none. Software engineering manager, 3 to 4. Sumati says 2 to 5. Yeah, kind of in there, like definitely less than 20. So I had a client, and his title was software engineering manager, and he had a 250 software engineering organization reporting to him, right? And so was his job title lying? It was. It was because of the bias we have about what that level means. And so instead, we changed his title to a descriptive one that said head of software engineering, comma, and the segment of software engineering he was heading up. at his company because that was really important. Otherwise, that terrible title would have kept the hiring organizations from people who needed somebody who could manage a software engineering organization of 250 people. I've heard that you should list the job titles that are LinkedIn friendly instead of what the title is in your specific company. Yes, Simone, I recommend you do that. Now, here's how we make sure it's honest, okay? So if I called that client who had 250 people reporting to him a senior director of software engineering, would that be a lie? What do you guys think? Would that be a lie? Senior director of software engineering. Arkna says yes. Yeah, yeah, that would absolutely be a lie. And that's because we would be saying that that specific company gave them that level of title. But since we said head of and we described the exact software that he was in charge of, it was not a lie because nobody would deny that he did that. Exactly. So be careful with title. We don't want to change things to like senior vice president. Like if the company hasn't given us a senior vice president, don't make yourself a senior vice president. You will be lying. And sometimes it gets kind of tricky. Like I was just working with somebody who is an administrative associate. How much money do you guys think an administrative associate is making a year? What do you guys think? Administrative associate. 60,000, 70,000, 50,000. That would be about right. Yeah. So, but Naveen, oh, sorry, Nazneen. Most people would not think that they were making $250,000 a year, but this client of mine was, and they were administrative associate. Once I dug in with her, it turns out she was really more of a director of operations. And so we had to describe what she did because if people saw administrative associate, they wouldn't understand it at all. So feel free to describe things. And if you're worried about it, come to my workshop. I will help you craft it in a way to make sure that you feel like you're being honest. So, right? Yeah. How much money was she leaving on the table by misrepresenting herself? And not only like what she's getting, like if there are any other hiring managers out there, like when you find the candidate to fill your role, it feels so good. It just feels amazing because you can be done with it. If we're not being clear with the job market about who we are and what we do in their language, we're also keeping them from us too. So they can't find us. So, how do you write your job titles if you're pivoting? That's a nuanced question. I need to see kind of the pivot. So, but definitely come to my workshop if you're interested there. That's kind of more of a solution marketing question, which I was very good at in my former career. I was known for taking a product that was made for one market and one use case and helping it pivot. And I do that for my clients as well. So also a couple of other challenges. So lots of contract jobs with short time frames. Bucket them under contracting. Do not list those things independently because people are going to be thinking that you leave all the time. That's a really common problem that I fix. So know that people are scanning those dates on the right to see like how long you stay. And also, if you've been at a company for a long time, break it up. Share your different titles. Even if you have had the same title, kind of talk about it in phases. So use descriptive phases. All right, so I'm going to give you an example of a story transformation. So I found somebody with a terrible story out on LinkedIn. I was like, I'm going to find somebody with a terrible story. Yes, I'm talking about that workshop. So here's an example of a story transformation. So I want you guys to take a look at this person's LinkedIn. They're seeking new opportunities in fundraising and development. What are their job titles and companies saying about that? What do you guys think? Yeah, so they're in hospitality, a lot of hospitality and retail. Don't see growth. Yeah, they're kind of all over the place, right? Well, actually, they were in sales for Pins Advantage, and then they were Coleman Research. So they're kind of all over the place, but we know fundraising and development, that's in the nonprofit sector. So wasn't able to speak to this person, but if I was just going to start transitioning their job titles, I would basically call them a customer experience representative specializing in luxury goods for Tommy Bahama. Why did I choose that? Because fundraising and development deals with high net worth individuals and people like we want to give them a really white glove experience. That's part of what that involves. So I helped highlight that. Instead of client associate, I took it to account associate just to kind of soften that a little bit. And then I took off sales development representative into development representative to help share that. I just took off the teaching stuff because I don't think we need that at all. So this is just an example of some different ways we can start to shape these trees to help tell a better story. But we have to understand what success criteria means. If I didn't understand the high net worth individual thing here in fundraising and development, I wouldn't know to put luxury goods there. So we really want to get curious about what that job market segment is looking for. All right, secret 3. So the hiring manager and the recruiter, they're hopeful and they're worried and they're in a hurry. And so they're worried because they're trying to choose somebody to get into the tribe that controls their daily experience, that controls their success. And so that can be like really, really stressful. And so I'm looking for trust. And so it's called Albert's Job Listings and Referrals. Why are referrals so helpful? What do you guys think? Everybody says you should get referrals. Why are referrals helpful when you're looking for a job? Trust, exactly, Pamela. That is correct. Trust. Um, so they are looking for somebody that they trust. If I get a resume from my friend Albert, I'm going to scan it looking for better things on it than if I get it from the apply online pile. Now, people do still get jobs from the apply online pile, but that is the least trusted pile. And that's why it's not just your resume, it's your outreach strategy as well. So statistics, but keep hearing put statistics, but feel too much statistics does not look good. Somebody that depends on who you are and what you're looking for, right? Like, so if I'm a product marketing manager and I'm only speaking in statistics and I'm not speaking about brand and messaging and positioning and leadership and analysts and all this stuff, it's not going to look very good because I'm not speaking the language. If I am a data scientist and I've got a bunch of statistics and tech, like packing my resume, that's good because that's what people are looking for. So, but it's not statistics, it's specificity. And so it's about reflect. And so if you're wondering how to do that, reflect bullet content and language from job descriptions. Go through the job descriptions of your chosen job market segment, look at each bullet that they've got in there of things they're looking for, highlight the ones you've done in green, and then write a reflective story. What I did, how I did it, why I did it, and what were the results. What that will give you is it will give you a really long, messy bullet that you can clean up and do more with. Okay. So we're going to climb again into the head of a hiring manager. So I want you guys to imagine that you are a hiring manager in IT. So you're looking for somebody to head up IT. Okay. And so here's the first description. Here's candidate 1. So I want you to just kind of scan what they've done. All right, here's candidate 1. And here's candidate 2. Which candidate would you want to interview if you could only interview one? Would you want to interview 1 or 2? That's right. And guess what? These are the same person. So this is a before and after of a resume I help somebody with. We'd all want to interview too. And that's because we can see how many people they've hired, that they've worked with AWS and Azure and single sign-on, all that stuff, the SLA and triage. They like shifting things from blocker to enabler. It's the same person. And so now you can see the power of specificity. So most people worry about their resumes being too wordy. Do not worry about your resume being too wordy. Be concerned with your resume building trust. Now, still, if you are like with how you format things, the biggest thing about format is you want the information that you want everybody to see on the first page of your resume, because that's the page that gets the most scrutiny. People just kind of glance at the second one. They don't look at it that much. So, like for example, if I've got a bunch of unknown companies like or unknown nonprofits that people wouldn't know, and I've got Planned Parenthood lower down, I'm going to want to make sure that Planned Parenthood, if I can get it, is up at the top of my resume. What do I recommend to do when you can't recall figures? Can you use creative license? You can use ballpark honesty. And what I mean by ballpark honesty is, so I saw we have somebody in HR here. Yes. And so, so let's imagine you all work in HR and you're trying to hire me as your career coach. Okay. You go, hey, Gretchen, how many people in HR have you worked with as a career coach? And I say 50, and you find out it was really only about 5. Do you feel like I've lied? What do you guys think? I say 50. You guys found out it's like, yes. Cynthia's like, yes, yes, you're right, Cynthia. Yeah, that's me telling some screaming lies. I am lying. But let's say you say, hey, Gretchen, how many HR people have you worked with? And I say 8. And we find out like at 6. I do an audit and we find out at 6. Do you guys feel like I've lied? No, I haven't lied because it's ballpark. And so the number is about context. And so whenever I work with people, like if we're talking about operational improvements, we just kind of think before, after, right? So, oh, I did this like improvement and it made things much faster. Well, how much faster did it get? Oh, I don't know. Like we didn't do a report. Well, how much time did it take before? Well, gosh, I guess it took about 2 weeks. When you were done, how long did it take? Well, it really only took a couple hours. Well, there we'll either say from weeks to hours, or if we can quantify it by a 5x, like productivity increase, we'll just do that. It's just really about the context. So it's not about the actual number. Unless we are data scientists, and then we kind of want to be a little bit more exact. So we want to have that data. All right. Secret 4, take advantage of the top bar. So everybody says, oh, the objective statement is dead, right? Don't do an objective statement. And I couldn't agree more, right? Like, why waste that? Nobody's going to read it. But when we know how people read resumes, which is just scanning it really quickly, we can take advantage of that top bar by having a big web readable statement about who we are in the language and success criteria of the position. This is also really critical if we have things to prove. So if we're in the middle of a career transition, we really want to show people that we can do that new career up in that top bar, but don't make it a lot of heavy text, right? Imagine like, none of us really read anymore. We really just kind of scan things. So try to make it web readable, and I'll show some examples. When we're talking about subtext, important domain skills, knowledge areas, and or achievements are really important. So like, for example, software developers, put your software skills up there. Cybersecurity people, put your cybersecurity stuff up there. Accountants, talk about the accounting principles up there. HR people, talk about which part of HR you fit into, like, and if you're learning and development, all the different adult learning theory models, or if you're in a nonprofit and you're in fundraising and development. I did one recently for somebody, and we talked about all the rich people he knew, because he knew a lot of rich people, and it was going to make those people really greedy. Uh, so Sumati, if you have those skills, yes, you should list those skills. You've got a lot of heavy lifting to prove that you can do those things. So if you're pivoting, you want to really think about that pivot in everything that you're doing. Use that language, but it's got to be honest. So if you don't know something, take a quick class, like learn it. And also, if you're pivoting, apply online is really it. When the job market was on fuego, okay, when it was super hot, it was still not kind at all to people who were pivoting the apply online process. Go and talk to people. I can't stress this enough how important that is. Will I get denied if I indicate the years that I work that was way off? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Yolanda. So I'm sorry if you can give me a little bit more context, that would be helpful. Oh, we've got a recruiter here. And Adrienne is a recruiter, and they're saying, yes, most of my reading is more skimming through resumes to see if candidates have the skills needed. Absolutely. You got people to hire, Adrienne, and we're doing the same thing, right? So we're just kind of flipping that process. But here's the other thing is that job seekers aren't reading either. Most of us, when we're looking at job postings, will scan a job posting real quick just to see if we like it. And then the minute we like it, we'll go to the qualifications and find the first thing we don't have and feel super bummed out. And so a better way to read those is to really read those job descriptions to make connections. If we're not sure if we're qualified, let's get talking to people in the job market. And in the job market we're in. I've got a note about that in a minute. So we're going to take a look at an example of the top bar. Okay. So this is an example of a before top bar of a resume that wasn't working. One of the challenges this client had was they were in the ad tech space and they've been kind of stuck there in the ad tech space, which didn't follow traditional software as a service, software as a service models. And so we really kind of wanted to pump this up and really help it out. So we changed it. We really thought about enterprise SaaS because that's a bigger job market. Ad tech, like it's still there, but it's also not as interesting. So we really thought through what his chosen job market segment wanted, and they wanted somebody who would win accounts, who would bring in a lot of big deals, who could bring in a lot of recurring revenue, who would exceed quota, and who knew lots of people at delicious accounts that they just couldn't wait for. And that's what we did with this client's top bar. And it really helped them escape ad tech. It really helped them really move the needle because we're speaking in that language and success criteria of the job market. And I think, Albert, there's going to be a recording of the webinar on Albert's job listings and referrals, I believe. So, all right, perfect. So secret 5, get scientifically curious about your resume. So as I said earlier, do performance testing and batches and collect ratios. Okay, now for any of us who have been in operations, we know like the challenge with job search is it's about creating the future without being able to predict it, right? When the stakes feel really high, and as much as we try, it feels kind of personal, as much as we're trying to make it not feel personal. And so if we look at every single automated email we get from a company as an indicator as to whether our job search is going to be successful or not, we are going to create a living hell for ourselves on this earth. Please do not do that. Instead, set a goal, like I'm going to apply to 20 jobs in this segment, and then I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to measure it. So do a batch and measure it. And I'm going to apply in this way. I'm going to reach out to 5 people. I'm going to apply for 5 jobs. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to see what's working, both from the outreach strategy as well as the resume. Also, ask other job seekers in your profession what their ratios are. That will help you benchmark how you are doing. I had a client and she was in HR and she went to an HR Reddit portal and asked people what their ratios were, apply to interview, and she was able to tell me that the resume I helped her with got much better than everybody else's, and that made me super happy because I like doing a good job at what I do. Who doesn't? So, so actually, the course is going to spend time. So the workshop is going to spend time on building a focused resume, but it will give you the tools to be able to shift and tweak that resume for your whole life. So you're going to really be getting some really valuable in-depth resume knowledge. So if you like what you're getting here, you're going to get deeper, more integrative exercises with it. And we're going to talk a bunch of things through together. Um, Play with different approaches until you get the funnel moving. I'll talk about that in a minute. Feedback. Oh, I cannot tell you. I had a client and we got his resume done. Um, and I do one-on-one resumes. I do, and feel free to check out my website. I do have a slight hold on taking on new clients right now for the next week or two. But I will be opening up free consultations in a little bit. But if you do set up a free consultation, please just be interested in working with me one-on-one because they do cost my business quite a bit to meet with people. But they are closed right now, but they will open up and there's a wait list. Um, so get selective feedback and continuously improve. And what I mean by selective feedback is if we ask everybody we know for resume feedback, we are going to get so much very feedback, it's going to drive us nuts. Like I had a client and we got his resume done and then he came back. He's like, my wife hates my resume. She hates it. She thinks there are too many words on it. It's just not right. It's not right. And I said, well, what does your wife do? And he said, she's a preschool teacher. And I said, yeah, but you're a data scientist. And so like it we we want to go to people who have the tribal knowledge. And that means like on Albert's list, there are a lot of great recruiters. We want to go to hiring managers, but like in our profession, in our industry. But if we ask everybody for resume feedback, it's kind of like asking people about like like accessories for an outfit. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. It's just going to drive us nuts. So and then do a quick check every so often just to make sure you're hitting all the major points. And what I mean by a quick check is your resume has two jobs. The first is to build enough trust with the job market that you can do the jobs you're applying for. So people spend time interviewing you. And the second is to support good conversations in those resumes. So all right. And so getting the funnel moving. So we're trying to generate interviews. And so there are a bunch of different activities that we might do to try to generate interviews. There's cold apps, there's referrals, there's networking, there's inbound recruiters. If you are not generating interviews, there is something wrong with your target, your resume, or your outreach strategy, but there's never anything wrong with you. Never. Like, do not take your worth to the job market because the job market actually isn't evaluating your whole worth. And so don't give them that power over you. Take your skills and your profession to the job market. Knowing that they've been positioned and communicated, and get really curious about how to build connections between those two. You are not getting accepted and rejected. I can promise you. You're getting like not even you, the words on your resume are getting scanned and deemed to either fit or not fit. And so if there's a mystery, look at the target, the resume, or the outreach strategy, do discrete experiments and keep doing experiments until you get the engine moving, but do them in batches. If you're getting screens, but you're not getting like moving forward, there's a different set of things to look at. And so try to be as objective as possible. It can be hard, but please try. Just a few more notes. SEO and bots. Everybody's like, what about SEO and bots, Gretchen? And like, how can I make sure my resume is keyword optimized? You know, I never have any problem with it because I'm making sure that the resumes that my clients have are reflective of the job market. Make sure you've got all the hard skills in there. Make sure you're speaking in that language and success criteria. Make sure your titles and the companies make sense, and make sure you're using your resume in a way that fits your go-to-market motion and your industry. So, film and television, don't apply online. You're going to be really sad. Go to LA and meet people. Like that's how you get those jobs. Okay. If you are a software developer, like with like back-end experience and machine learning, you can apply for jobs online. Don't worry for those types of jobs. Don't worry about that. But if you're a coding bootcamp graduate who knows some of that stuff but doesn't have any work experience, go and talk to the people, get really curious. And especially in this job market, get curious about where you should start. I just had a coding bootcamp graduated a few years ago, and they hadn't gotten a job. And we looked at the job market, and I'm like, I think you probably want to work in tech support right now with everything that's going on and your time frame. And he got a job in tech support, and he's working with engineering, and they're giving him some projects. And so he's building up trust so he can move over. He's also building up stuff on his GitHub. So, like really kind of, instead of like focusing on, am I good or bad, try to focus out at the job market and what they're looking for, and use these tools to like until you get connections with it, and talk to people, ask questions. Um, Also, like you can use JobScan or Resume Worded. ChatGPT can be pretty good too for just making sure that like you're covering all the bases. And that brings us to AI. AI is great, but use it as a guide, editor, and checker, not an author. Okay. Why do you think I would say don't let ChatGPT write your whole resume? Why do you think I'd say that? Yes, use it as a guide, but you want specificity because specificity builds trust. If it just all sounds like the same, like buzzword bingo, like, jargon salad as everybody else's, you're not going to stand out. You really want to think about what your unique value proposition is in terms of the way you approach things and share that. And that will help you stand out and make you seem like an individual and build trust. Um, Also prioritize content over format unless you're a graphic designer or a copywriter. Actually, as a copywriter, still prioritize content, but you want to like make sure like the copy is perfect. And really, mindset is everything. And I think I've covered that a lot. So with that, it has been so good being with you guys. I'm sorry I couldn't get to every question. I know we've had a lot of content to cover. I really hope you go to my workshop. So we're going to be spending 90 minutes together every day for 3 days. And we're going to be covering a lot. And you're going to leave not only with a great resume, but also with a lot of powerful information about how to connect with the job market that will help you as you move forward.
So let's answer a few questions, I think. I saw that some of you folks asked questions about an hour ago or so. If there are any, if you want to ask those questions again and bubble them to the top, let's do that. In the meantime, so like let's talk through. Have you talked through what it is, the three things that you'll be talking about for all three of those days, right? So powerful resume storytelling, building trust and standing out, and then bringing it all together and expanding it to LinkedIn. So there's 3 days, 2.5 hours of each day. So you're going to get 7.5 hours of total
90 minutes,
instruction, 90
90,
minutes.
90, 90
90
minutes
minutes,
each day.
270 minutes, or I guess 7.5 hours of instruction. So there you go. Um, and so yeah, for those of you, we're going to give you an in-webinar discount as well. So check that out. We did have a question that said, you said you'd circle back to older job seekers. What tips do you have?
Yes. Okay, the tips I have for older job seekers is that younger job seekers worry that they don't have enough experience. Older job seekers worry that they're going to have a lot of bias. So here are my recommendations for older job seekers. Don't bring old energy to the job market, meaning, so don't like have the most like alive and specific information about what you've done be from 20 years ago. That's really going to give a clue that you kind of burned out in your career. So really focus on really making your most recent jobs come alive. Your resume is not an official transcript. You can absolutely feel free to chop it 10 to 15 years out. You don't have to include the date that you graduated from college, all of that stuff. And that's really kind of how age bias comes across on a resume. If there are some jobs that you really want to share, but you don't want to share the dates, you can just say other, roles include, and then just list the titles and the date, titles and companies without the dates. Um, the biggest thing that causes age bias is, first of all, like, what is that company like? If there is a 23-year-old CEO, there's going to be a lot of age bias at that company. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there's some companies with 55 and 60-year-old CEOs. So where there's going to be less age bias, there is a place for everybody. Um, if we are interviewing and we've gotten to a point where hiring managers are going to be younger than us, the biggest thing is the more we see and feel the difference, the more everybody else is. Like, let's go with our young energy to the job market, which means we're not saying been there, done that, right? Like, oh, you young people today, you just don't even know what it was like back in 1985 when we were doing interoffice mail. Please don't do that. It's not going to help you get a
Back in
job.
my day, we
So
went to work and we walked uphill both ways. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we didn't even have a personal computer. We had a typewriter. Yeah, don't do that, please. But the more we feel like we are too old, the more we can kind of put off that energy. And so, like, just think of Betty White. Like, who here wouldn't want to have hired Betty White when she was alive for a job? I would totally hire her for anything. And that's just because she was connected, she was curious, she was great. So, be Betty White.
Yeah. And then what
All
about
right.
bias for older individuals when applying and they ask for the year you graduated?
That's a good question. So I don't worry so much about that. I hear a lot about age bias, and to be honest, I don't see it a lot with my clients. I really don't. Um, and so I would just do a round of applying and don't worry about it and see what happens, but make sure your resume is real good.
Yeah.
Or even if you want A/B test, this would be really interesting if somebody wants to do a little blog post on this. Do an A/B test. My best friend, her name is Justine, and she's in the automotive industry. And she was having trouble getting interviews, and I removed the E from her name and did an A/B test. She got more interviews being Justin than she did
Mm.
Justine. But so, like, if you're really curious, like, just change the date and like see what happens. You can always call it a typo. But I would be really interested if somebody wanted to do that batch and like come back with some scientific data about what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's talk
so
about the 3-day program for a quick mo So, in the workshop, do you review and fix our resume?
So what we're going to do is everybody who signs up for the workshop, I'm going to up a Google Drive, and I'll have looked at all of your resumes and we'll go through everybody's concern about their resume. So I'll be coaching you on fixing your resume, but I will not be doing it directly, but I will definitely be helping you with the strategy, helping you with the positioning points. And for a lot of us, writing our own resume can be really hard. And so I'm going to be setting up a partner system for anybody who wants to do the evening exercises with somebody. It's so much. I have been trying to build self-service job search tools for almost a decade now. And every self-service job search tool that I've developed, every user test came back with the same information. And that is that self-service job search tools are really no fun, because looking for a job by yourself is really no fun. And our brains do really weird things when we're all alone by ourselves looking for a job, writing our resume, etc. So we'll also be setting you guys up with buddies for anybody who wants a buddy. Um,
Yep. And
so
then Nazneen asks, I would like to know if at the end of this 3-day workshop, we will have a new or updated resume and LinkedIn profile.
you will have a better resume and you'll know how to apply it to your LinkedIn profile. Yes. and you will know how to really think scientifically about your resume for the rest of your career.
Perfect. Wonderful. Any other questions about the 3-day workshop? I want everyone to understand that, we are here for you. The job search can be very isolating, right? No one wants to be up at 2 in the morning watching YouTube videos on how to update their resume when they can do workshop related content instead. And will it be so, Cynthia? If you do purchase, we will record the sessions, and you can catch up on the sessions on your own if you'd like. Um, yeah. Ooh, do we have another session happening soon? So Gretchen, I think we need to create a resume course that folks can take on their own time in addition to this.
Okay, that sounds great. I would be more than happy to do that. I think we've got
Yeah.
everything we need.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And for that one, I'd be more than happy to like have an office hours, like
Yeah.
that
We can
people
do
come
that.
to if we have. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because gosh, resumes, yeah, they're so stressful and they don't need to be. Like we just really want to like master this tool and make it our friend, right? And so that's my goal.
And then we have one-to-one people are asking for one-to-one openings, so that's as well. And so yeah, I mean, I think what the thing with Albert's list is 2024 is the year of live courses, and 2025 we'll be doing a hybrid of both. So, yeah. But we want to give that live for many of you because we know that your resume is a very immediate thing. That's why we're doing 3 consecutive days, right? Bring your lunch, join us, talk to us. Gretchen knows exactly what she's doing, and she's got a lot of fantastic clients who have been hired. You saw that NASCAR slide earlier, so I mean, you've got all those brands. Um, yeah. And so the price, right? So let me go ahead and drop the price in there. I'm giving everyone here a $20 discount, so that puts it to $207 for those 3 days. Um, and look, I know this is our job search offering, so I also want to say if you're in a situation, because I know a lot of people have been laid off for a really, really, really long time at this juncture, that if you need a payment plan, I will be happy to create that for this particular boot camp because I know the resume is incredibly important. So please reach out to me at this email address and we can get something set up and figured out. Yeah. So any other additional questions? We're going to come out with a new resume that can be applied to your LinkedIn. We're going to show you how to build trust and stand out amongst your competition, and there's a lot of it these days. And then we're going to show you how to tell that story so that it's clear from top to bottom what it is that you're capable of doing and that there's no confusion whatsoever. Gretchen, we have people asking about your private session. So,
Yeah, so I do work with clients one-on-one. There's more information about that at outsidethebox.today. My hourly rate is $250 an hour. My standard resume package is $995.
mm,
Right now, I am not taking new clients for just a little bit. So I've just put a pause on new clients, but there is a wait list to work with me one-on-one. And so if you go to my scheduling page, you'll be able to see my assistant's email and send in your name. And then so as soon as I open up free consultations again, we're going to reach out to those people next. So
so I can it's just to say that for a third of the no a third of the price,
and a quarter,
a
a
fifth.
fifth, 200
So
out of fifth.
yeah, so a fifth of the price. You're getting 80% off. You're getting Gretchen and her amazing self in a group setting, so you can
Oh,
collaborate together too, and and you'll come out with not only a resume, but you'll also come out with a LinkedIn. So you're almost getting a two for one there. And you know, with
Yeah.
anything with all of our group sessions that Albert's List offers, you know what? I highly encourage you to always be networking. You know, Gretchen is available on LinkedIn. She's available in our Facebook group, and continue networking and network well. And so, yeah. Um, so how many will be in the group session? It really depends. Right now, we have one person who signed up. We may get up to five, maybe up to 10. So I'm not sure yet, but we try to keep it affordable so that job seekers can can have a way to move forward in their job search without being hindered. So, yeah, I'll
My
be following
pleasure,
up.
everybody.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that, Albert?
Oh, I was just saying if there's anything else, but I think folks want us to offer this again in the future. So, um,
Okay. Great. I'd
you and
love
I can
to.
talk about that offline, and I think it'll be a fantastic opportunity to really help folks out in a massive way.
Yeah, awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for all the participation and everything and all the nice messages. I think both Albert and I want this to be free for everybody if it could, but unfortunately it can't. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad we're able to bring you some valuable information for free today. And for those of you who are going to be in the workshop, I'm really going to look forward to partnering with you and working with you, and we'll work through those questions. Okay.
All right. Wonderful. We'll talk to you all soon and have a great, wonderful rest of the day, everybody. Bye.